Hey book besties, it's Gracie and it is my favorite video of the month to film. Let's do my April reading wrap up. We're gonna be diving into the 11 books I read / listened to in the month of April. I can't wait to dive in because truly I had such an incredible month of reading. As always, there will be no spoilers in this video. This is spoiler free. You're not gonna know anything more than you would from the back of the book or the Amazon description. I try not to spoil anything because I have learned my lesson from videos past, but we've got 11 books here, quite a few new releases from the month of April, some oldies that I just got around to, some really highly recommended ones, and I'm telling you guys, there were only like 2 disappointments in this whole stack. Maybe only one major disappointment. Some may even say it's like a great big beautiful disappointment, but we'll get into that. And then I think only one other one I didn't kind of like. Oh no, just the one. So such a good month of reading. Let's get into it. Before I go into book number 1, make sure that you guys add me on Goodreads. This doesn't really do anything but allow you to connect with me and know what I'm reading in real time, and I get so much reading inspiration from what you guys are reading and scrolling through my Goodreads, so I will leave that in the description for you guys to follow me. And of course, across my other socials, I do my top 3 books of the month, I do the reading wrap up, I just brought back the silent review for the month of April, if you know from last year, so make sure you're following me on my other social medias to stay more up to date with what I'm doing. And if you're interested in any book that I mentioned in this video, I have them all linked on my Amazon storefront, which will also be in the description box so you can shop them all right in one place. I have 9 physical copies of the books and 2 that I only have on my Kindle, so we've got a lot to talk about today and I just want to dive right in. There were 2 brand new releases this month I was so excited to read and get my hands on, so I'm going to start with those 2. The first of it being Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. Do not let the cover of this book fool you. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, but it is such a good read. It's not my favorite Abby read that I've read, but it's definitely not my least favorite. Yours truly will forever be my least favorite Abby book. I don't think she can write anything bad but that book, and we can agree to disagree whether or not you like that book. But when I am reading a swoony romance novel, I do not need my main character man being insecure, and let me tell you, Xavier is not an insecure man. Let me tell you, that is not what we're dealing with in this book. Xavier is a hot veterinarian in Minnesota. You know, he loves the animals, so cuddly and cute, but he's also got a little bit of a smolder to him. And when he meets Samantha, they end up going out on an insane date only for her to tell him that she is leaving and moving off to California literally the next day. Of course, love at first sight, and then they're just ripped apart and across the country from each other. So this book explores their relationships, how it works with long distance, and of course, everything that's going on in Samantha's family life, which can get a little bit heavy. But I thought it was a good book, a little different from what you normally read with this cross-country long distance move, but I still thought it was a really swoony read and the perfect beach read. Just pick this up, go read it on the beach. This is a book that you can pick up, put down, and still know what's going on. That's what I love about Abby Jimenez books, and this is definitely one of them. So take this on your next beach trip. You won't regret it. I'm not gonna give you much more than that, but come on, swoony romance book. What else do you need to know? Thinking over it more, I actually have to say that Fearless has to be my most anticipated read of April, and it did not disappoint. This is the 3rd and final book in the Powerless trilogy by Lauren Roberts, and oh my goodness, Lauren, you just know how to write banter. She knows how to write great banter. Of course, you want the swoony romance bits, but if your characters don't know how to talk to each other, how to get under each other's skin, or know exactly what to say, then you are not reading the right books, because I'm telling you, ooh, all throughout the series, Kai and Peyton have had the best banter, and especially in this book, I just loved it. So many twists and turns. Every time I thought I knew where this book was going, it did not go that way, and I really appreciated that. Nothing that actually annoyed me or made me mad, because sometimes authors add a twist and you're like, oh, why couldn't it just stay the way it was? But this, I really enjoyed what she did with this book. So because this is the 3rd and final book in a trilogy, I'm not going to go into it much more than that, because obviously there's 2 books prior to this, and I don't want to spill anything in case you haven't read this behemoth of a book. I'm telling you, I don't even know how many pages this is. Maybe almost 600? Yeah. I know my book size is 593. I mean, come on. I did not want it to end. I truly did not want it to end. It wasn't one of those books you're like, okay, I'm only 50% through, like what the heck is going on? I'm like, I could read 1,000 more pages. So thank you, Lauren Roberts, for this masterpiece. I absolutely loved it. Hit all the expectations, and what a great series. Speaking of the great big beautiful disappointment, or as I've seen it on social media more often, the great big beautiful flop, what was this? Okay, don't shoot the messenger, but I'm about 50-50 on Emily Henry books. I really liked Happy Place. I love the people we meet on vacation. I like Beach Read. But then when it came to funny story, book lovers, is there another one that I'm forgetting? Well, at least now add this one, Great Big Beautiful Life, to the ones I just don't really like. This book was a highly anticipated release, big summer romance book coming out, and of course I have book FOMO, and like I want to know what's going on when things are popular, so I read this book going, what the heck? I would have so much rather read anything else but this. I was struggling to get through this book. I would say it's more of a women's fiction or something along the lines of that with a sprinkle of romance. Do not pick this book up if you think you're getting a swoony summer romance, because that is not what I got from it at all. I also went in with that expectation, so maybe if I just went in with an open mind about this book, I wouldn't have not liked it so much. But Alice and Hayden, our two main characters, are going up against each other trying to get this coveted story of writing the life of Margaret Ives for a book. They're both writers. Alice sort of needs her big break. Hayden's already had his, and she said, okay, I can't decide, so both of you are gonna have a 1-month trial to figure out who's gonna write my story. So of course, it's like an enemies to lovers. They hate each other because they're against each other, trying to figure out who's gonna get to write this. I feel like most of the book was the story of Margaret Ives, and then the Hayden and Alice was more of a side plot to the book, so didn't really enjoy this for it being such an anticipated read. And obviously Emily Henry, huge author with every single other one of her books currently being adapted for movies and TV shows, very highly anticipated read. I just felt super let down by this book. I didn't think it was very similar to any of her other books in any aspect. Or she has this beautiful writing that makes you feel like you were there, but it's just not the romance read I was expecting. So unfortunately, I'm on the side of great big beautiful flop. It's still a 3-star book. I really think I should have given it 2 stars because I just really was struggling through this book, but I find that I'm not that mean, so I did end up giving it a 3-star, although probably would have gotten less from me. But if you do want a romance to sweep you off your feet, you go for the Rebel Blue Ranch series by Lila Sage. This is Wild and Wrangled is the last book in the 4-book series. Oh my gosh, you guys, Lila Sage knows how to write a steamy, swoony cowboy romance. I didn't think I was into cowboy romances, and I'm like, now you gotta give me them all. I have enjoyed this series so thoroughly. Camille and Dusty's story was really sweet. It wasn't my favorite, but it wasn't my least favorite, but it just gave me all of those rancher cowboy vibes that I just love so much. I'm just like, yeehaw, Lila, give me another series. I will be waiting for it. I'm gonna read you a little bit of the back of this one because I don't want to spoil it, since all these characters throughout the series are interconnected. They are standalone romances, but you are hinted into other couples' relationships that you can read about in her previous books. She's the one that got away. He's the one that never let go. Camille Ashwood has always loved to plan. Her latest was her best yet. She was going to get married so she could secure her daughter's future, get her overbearing parents off her back, and finally start building her own life in small town Meadowlark, Wyoming. Easy, right? But when her groom doesn't show up to the wedding, Cam's life is turned upside down. Dusty Tucker has nearly spent all of his adult life running. Running from what though? More like who? Cam Ashwood. But ever since he returned home last year, the girl who was his first, well, everything, has become a woman seemingly determined to keep him at arm's length. Despite her best attempts to stay far away from Dusty Tucker, Cam realizes that being close to him is like slipping into her favorite jeans. Easy, comfortable. That is until past wounds start to open and feelings, both old and new, wreak havoc. Swoony, cowboy, summer, romance, pick this series up. One of the books I listened to on audiobook this month, I don't have the physical version of, was Next of Kin by Kia Abdullah. Oh my goodness. I discovered this book off a TikTok recommendation. I wish I could give credit to whoever recommended me this book because my mind was blown from the very beginning. It got me hooked from the very beginning. This book is scary because this does actually happen in real life. I know some of these mystery and thriller books actually do happen in real life, but this is something that is a genuine mistake that ruins your life for the rest of your life. And that is that Layla, the main character in this book, tells her brother-in-law that she will take her nephew off to nursery that morning. She got a call, got distracted on the way to work, stopped at work, got out of the car, locked it, and 3 hours later got a call from her brother-in-law saying Max never got dropped off at school. She locked him in the car on the hottest day of the year, and he died in the back of her car. He was asleep, she didn't know he was there, totally distracted, and her nephew was killed in the back of her car. As somebody who has a niece, that is like the scariest thing to ever think of, is that a baby could be sleeping, you're off your normal routine, and then you just leave the baby, and babies get left in cars. It is so sad and so terrifying. But this story, the way that it unraveled, the court scenes, the ending, the twists, the turns, I was on the edge of my seat the entire time. I listened to it as an audiobook so quickly because I was just finding anything and everything to do to keep listening to this book. And I'm sure if you pick it up as a physical book, you will have any excuse to just sit there and keep reading this because wow. So just to make sure I'm covering all my bases, it says what it follows is an explosive, high-profile trial that will tear the family apart. But as the case progresses, it becomes clear there's more to this incident that meets the eye. That's the end of the back of the book, because I feel like I covered the rest of it. But wow, it was a gripping read, and you need to go pick this one up. I'm serious. If you like mystery thriller, I mean, it's a little scary again, like I said, because it's truly a real-life situation. But then as the story goes on, it's just, wow. All I can say is wow, go pick this one up. Another audiobook listen for me this month was Daisy Jones and the Six by Jenkins Reid. I feel so behind the game on having listened to this. I know that like 1 or 2 summers ago, I tried to listen to this on audiobook because when I re-downloaded it from the library, it was like, do you want to resume where you started 45 minutes in? And I was like, oh, I knew that I started this. Don't know why I never finished it, but I was like, okay, no, I started the whole thing over. Let me tell you, I think that this would be a great read too, but the audiobook is a full-on production. Every single character has a different narrator. Obviously, they narrate the book as it's written, but it's documentary style, so you feel like you're just listening to a 9-hour documentary on your phone, and the narrators are so good at painting the picture, along, of course, with the words of Jenkins Reid. So good that they actually turned it into a mini-series on Prime Video, and I've started it this last week, and oh, it is so good. There's nothing like listening to an audiobook and painting this whole picture in your mind, and then getting to watch it on the TV pretty darn close to what you had in your head. Oh, just amazing. Really do not want to spoil this one for you, so I'm going to read you the back, but wow, this was such an excellent audiobook, and so far the miniseries is incredible. Daisy is a girl coming of age in LA in the late 60s, sneaking into clubs on the Sunset Strip, sleeping with rock stars, and dreaming of singing at the Whiskey A Go-Go. Her voice is getting noticed, and she has the kind of heedless beauty that makes people do crazy things. Also getting noticed is The Six, a band led by brooding Billy Dunn. On the eve of their first tour, his girlfriend Camila finds out she's pregnant, and with the pressure of impending fatherhood and fame, Billy goes a little wild on the road. Daisy and Billy cross paths when the producer realizes that the key to supercharged success is to put the two together. What happens next will become the stuff of legend. The making of that legend is chronicled in this riveting novel, written as if it were the oral history of one of the biggest bands of the 70s. In Daisy Jones and the Six, Jenkins Reid brilliantly captures an unforgettable place and time in an utterly distinctive voice. I would say that's pretty true. Absolutely fabulous and wonderful, totally 70s vibes, and I loved every second of this. Talk about another jaw-dropping audiobook. I feel like I sort of left all my audiobooks for the end. On a Quiet Street, Serafina Nova Glass. Wow. Wow, my jaw was dropped almost the entire time listening to this book because I really wasn't sure where this was going. I didn't even have guesses, and it kind of blew my socks off. Who wouldn't want to live in Brighton Hills? This exclusive community on the Oregon coast is the perfect mix of luxury and natural beauty. Stunning houses nestle beneath mighty Douglas firs, and lush backyards roll down to the lakefront. It's the kind of place where neighbors look out for one another. Sometimes a little too closely. Cora thinks her husband Finn is cheating. She just needs to catch him in the act. That's where Paige comes in. Paige lost her son to a hit and run last year, and she's drowning in the kind of grief that makes people do reckless things like spying on the locals, searching for proof that her son's death was no accident, and agreeing to Cora's plan to reveal what kind of man Finn really is. All the while, their reclusive new neighbor, Georgia, is acting more strangely every day. But what could such a lovely young mother possibly be hiding? When you really start to look beyond the airy open floor plans and marble counters, Brighton Hills is filled with secrets. Some big, some little, some deadly. And one by one, they're about to be revealed. Better than I could have put it. Better than I could have put it. It almost feels like reading small town gossip or like small town lives that actually could be true. And it's crazy what happens in this book. And I just felt like I was a nosy neighbor peeping in from the outside. So good. I did it again. I listened to another Freida McFadden book this month. I was in such an audiobook slump at one point in April. I had listened to 3 or 4 audiobooks or started to listen to them, and I just did not like the narrators. I'm picky, and I said, you know what, let me see what Freida books I can get. So I chose The Inmate. To me, Freida McFadden books are always okay. I think that this one was more okay of the okay. Like, there's definitely better ones than The Inmate, but for whatever reason, her audiobook narrators are so good. I know that every time I can turn to a Freida McFadden audiobook and be totally and completely captivated by the story, and of course, this was no exception. This is The Inmate by Freida McFadden. Nothing special in my personal opinion, but a really great story, and while I was listening to it while I was driving in the car a lot, I listened to this book and was captivated, and that's all I really want out of an audio. If I get more than that, amazing. I'm so thrilled. But at the very least, I need something like a Frida McFadden book to get me through my days, get me through my drives, get me through my walks, and this did just that. I thought I knew where this book was going, and I did. And there was a little twist in there, so I did appreciate that. Here's kind of what it says. The guiltiest people aren't always the one behind bars. As a new nurse practitioner at a maximum security prison, Brooke Sullivan is taught 3 crucial rules. 1, treat all prisoners with respect. 2, never reveal any personal information. And 3, never ever become too friendly with the inmates. But nobody knows that Brooke has already broken the rules. Nobody knows about her intimate connection to Shane Nelson, one of the penitentiary's most notorious and dangerous inmates. They certainly don't know that Shane was Brooke's high school sweetheart, the star quarterback, the golden boy who's serving a life sentence for a series of grisly murders. Or that Brooke's testimony was all what put him there. But Shane knows. He knows more than anyone, and he will never forget. The Inmate is a propulsive, mind-bending thriller about how we define guilt and who has to pay for it. And this book does go between present day and the incident that put Shane Nelson in jail. So I like the dual timeline of the book. Like I said, it was captivating as an audiobook. I don't know if I would ever necessarily pick up a Frida McFadden book to read again. That sounds terrible, but I mean read and sit there and read. But I do always enjoy them as an audiobook. She has a new book coming out right in the beginning of May. I already forget what it's called, but I already have the notification hold for the library because I just know it's going to be a good audiobook. What can I say? I keep running back to Frida even though I don't give her 5-star reviews. I'm pretty sure this was a 3-star read for me, but like I said, if I can be entertained in the moment, even if it isn't the most life-changing book, I like it, and Frida is just always a guarantee. Another book I read but I didn't end up getting the physical copy of was Any Trope But You. I thought that this was such a sweet romance book. It also came out in the month of April, although it wasn't really on my radar. I had heard a couple people talk about it on TikTok, but I thought, you know what, that looks like such a cute cover, and I didn't read anything on the premise, but I seriously enjoyed this book. I would say it was more of a winter romance than a summer romance. As much as I was giggling and kicking my feet, I don't know if I would really envision myself reading this book on a beach, but if you are going on an Alaskan trip this summer, which I know is popular to do Alaska trips and Alaska cruises in the summertime, I think that this would be a really fun book to bring along. My best friend Mackenzie is going on an Alaskan cruise this summer, and I said, you have to read this book while you're on your trip. I'm pulling up the little description / back of the book because I don't want to spoil anything. This was one of the first books that I read this month, and it's not really fresh off the top of my head, but I thought it was a cute premise. Again, more of a wintry read than a summer read. I feel like it would have done better coming out in the winter time rather than the spring heading into summer. Still a cute book. Glad I read it, but if you're thinking about reading it, hold off on it until you're ready for those cozy winter cold vibes. Beloved romance author Margot Bradley has a dark secret. She doesn't believe in happily ever afters. Not for herself, not for her readers, and not even for her characters, whom she secretly writes alternate endings that swap weddings and babies for divorce papers and the occasional slashed tire. When her happily never after document is hacked and released to the public, she finds herself canceled by her readers and dropped by her publisher. Desperate to try and find a way to continue supporting her chronically ill sister Savannah, Margot decides to trade meet cutes for murder. The fictional kind. But when Savannah books Margot a 6-week stay in a remote Alaskan resort to pen her first murder mystery, Margot finds herself running from a moose and leaping into the arms of the handsome proprietor, making her fear she's just landed in a romance novel instead. The last thing Dr. Forrest Wakefield ever expected was to leave his dream job as a cancer researcher to become a glorified bellhop. What he's really doing at his family's resort is caring for his stubborn, ailing father, and his puzzle-loving mind is slowly freezing over until Margot shows up. But Forrest doesn't have any room in his life for another person he could lose, especially one with a checkout date. Long snowy nights and one unlikely trope after another draw Margot and Forrest together. They'll have to learn how to overcome their fears and set aside their assumptions before Margot leaves, or risk becoming a happily never after story themselves. And actually, I remember this book has some good spice in it, but definitely more of the winter vibe than a summer vibe. But if it's still cold where you live, or you don't care what you're reading during what season, definitely go for this one now. If not, wait a little bit toward the end of the year. I would die for you. I have that Prince song stuck in my head every time I look at this title by Sandy Jones. I listened to this book. Very interesting. Another dual timeline book that goes back and forth in time, sort of like Frida McFadden, where like the incident happened to present day and how it's affecting Nicole's life in present day. But I thought that this book was very interesting. Love the premise, love the little secret October band, and the twists and turns with Nicole and her sister Cassie and how it all ends up happening literally at the end of this book. I ended it and I was like, what just happened? What just happened? A little confused, but also very impressed. This book goes back and forth between California in 2011 and London in 1968. So in 1968, Cassie, the younger sister, is 16 and obsessed with Secret October, which is like a hot boy band in London. The lead singer, Ben, discovers her older sister, Nicole, while she was singing at a local bar one night, and he can't help but feeling drawn to her, setting in motion a collision course that could tear their family apart. So then in 2011, after all of this has happened, Nicole has kind of shut out her life in London, and she lives a quiet life in the small seaside town of Coronado with her husband and her daughter. She wasn't expecting a writer to knock on her door, ask for her personal insight about Secret October, and that same day her daughter goes missing and the school claims her aunt picked her up. But she doesn't have an aunt. Convinced of a link between the two incidents, Nicole is forced to confront long abandoned memories from her past to protect everything she now holds dear. So it's almost like she's leading a double life a little bit, but love the dual POV. Thought that this was a really interesting story, and it was fun as an audiobook. That brings us to the last, but certainly not least, book that I'm going to talk about today that I read in the month of April. Out on a limb. I have heard so much about this book over the years, and I just like have had no desire really to pick it up. Not that I don't love the front cover, it just was kind of giving me nothing with them sitting on the couch, but whoa, the first few chapters of this book, I was like, we are getting right into the spice, and then definitely cools out for the rest of the book. So don't let the first few chapters sort of deter you from reading this book. Who doesn't want a sexy nerd in their life? Okay, Beau. He is missing his leg, and she has a deformity in her hand that makes her hands really small. And I thought that was an interesting piece in the book. I think it just added another layer to a typical romance story. I'm gonna read you the back of this book that starts off as a one-night stand, and I think you'll be grinning by the end of it. Winifred Wynne McNulty has always been wildly independent and not one to be coddled for her limb difference. Wynne has spent most of her life trying to prove that she can do it all on her own. With some minor adjustments, she's done just fine. Hooking up at a costume party with the incredible charming Beau changes everything. Wynne finds herself pregnant and decides to keep the baby, while Beau is surprisingly elated to step up to the plate. Wynne is unsure whether she can handle this new challenge. Together, Wynne and Beau decide to get to know each other as friends and nothing more while they embark on this parenting journey together. But as they both should know by now, life rarely goes according to plan. So it starts off super hot and steamy, chills out, and then you're just waiting for that build up with these two characters. I thought it was so well done. So many good layers in this book. And I already have some more books on hold from Hannah Bonham Young at the library, so I'm excited to read those as well. And that's it, the 11 books I read / listened to, because we count audiobooks as real books over here. Well, I hope that you guys enjoyed. Hope you got some inspiration from the books. If you have anything else to say, of course, leave it in the comments down below. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and I will see you guys again for May. I'm hoping to read at least 10 books for the month of May, although I have a busy May and a busy June, so I'm like, oh, my summer reading month, so I really try and get 15 books in. Not sure that's gonna happen, but you know, I always try and one up myself. I love you guys so much, whether you read 0 books, 1 book, 10 books, 20 books this last month. I am so proud of you, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!